Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have Nicole Melichar back on. She's our first repeat guest actually. Nicole, welcome back.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Awesome. So you are down under in Melbourne getting ready for the Australian Open. There's a lot of at least what I'm following on Twitter, there seems to be a lot of chaos going on with regards to the quarantine and the practicing and all that stuff. So I wanted to start by just asking how are things going for you personally and uh, kind of all the players down there?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm actually very grateful that we can leave the room because I know there are 72 players that are in a hard lockdown. And the fact that I can leave only 5 hours a day puts it in perspective because just to be in the room for the rest of the time is almost driving me nuts. And if I couldn't have left the room every day for 5 hours, I don't know what I would be doing. So I'm really happy and grateful. I think Tennis Australia has done an amazing job and put their best efforts forward to make it as safe as possible, but still allow us this opportunity. So we're getting what we agreed to. We're getting our 2 hours of tennis, our hour and a half of gym. We have a little bit of time to eat outside of our rooms, and then we go back to the rooms. So at my hotel, we can walk to the courts, so we don't have a transportation issue.
Okay.
So I think that's been really helpful over here, and I think most of the doubles players are in this hotel. So yeah, I think that's convenient that we can walk to the courts.
Nice. So what does a day look like right now? Do you have like is it 5 hours that's like all together, or is it like two in the morning, two and a half in the afternoon, or what what is like walk us through like a day. You wake up and then what happens?
Yeah, it's literally a 5 hour block. So the evening before we get our schedule for the next day. So my schedule today is I think they knock on my door at 4 o'clock. And so they give it like a 15-minute window. So my practice will start around 4:15. So that means at 4 o'clock they knock on my door. We have 15 minutes to get to the court. So then I practice from 4:15 to 6:15. And then from there, we go to the gym, which is right behind the courts. So we'll be there for an hour and a half. So from 6:15 till 7:45. And then we walk back to the hotel where they have like certain eating areas, either inside or outside. And you're always hoping for the outside one.
Yeah.
So we'll eat. We have an hour to eat. So we have from 7:45 to 8:45. And then between 8:45 and 9, that's when you get back in the elevator and go back up to the room.
Wow. So it's
It's
like to the minute they have your whole schedule down.
Yeah, and the thing is, every time they bring someone to practice,
Hmm.
like only you can use the elevator, so there's no close contact. So like it's a very tight schedule. So if the knock on my door is at 4 o'clock, I better be ready
Hmm.
at 4 o'clock because the next knock on somebody else's door might be at 4:05 or 4:10. So
Hmm.
they do it like this. So they do one team. They basically budget 5 or 10 minutes like per
Yeah.
cohort that's going outside. So yeah, and we're packed and ready to go. And literally they'll give you kind of
Yeah.
a knock on the door like, hey, 2 minutes, and then you're out. So they give you a
That's
gentle
crazy.
warning. Hmm.
Yeah. So it seems like people might have their different opinions on like how strict they should be versus like other countries and whatever else. But if you're gonna be strict, it sounds like they do have a pretty good system.
Yeah, I honestly, I think the system works. Yes, it's very strict, but if
Hmm.
that's what keeps the community safe and gives them a peace of mind,
Sure.
I mean, at this point, I think this is like day 11 of because I'm out on the 29th. This is 25th right now. So
Okay.
I've already
So
I've had 10 negative tests. So I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, but you would think, 10 days in a row of negative tests, and I've never tested positive for COVID, that there's a pretty good chance I don't have it, but apparently there still is that like slight
yeah.
percent chance that it could pop
Yeah.
up because of the incubation period. But
Yeah.
and they're not easing up on the rules. They've been just as strict from day one
Yeah.
as they are now. So I'm just happy that they made it available that we can go outside, because the
Right.
ones that are in the hard quarantine can't even get a dose of sunshine.
Yeah, yeah. I'd imagine the most important thing from a player's perspective is just having like clarity. Like, okay, if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be strict, like be clear about what the rules are and stick to them,
Yeah.
so that we don't have anything that's like unforeseen.
Mm-hmm.
So, last time we talked, you were 19 in the world. Now you're up to number 11. You had a
Mm-hmm.
really good fall swing. You made the Cincinnati final. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So Cincinnati final, U.S. Open final. You won in Strasbourg, and
Mm-hmm.
then you made the semis of Roland Garros.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what. It seems like maybe you were playing the best tennis of your career potentially. What kind of changed for you, or what clicked for that stretch there?
I think I enjoyed my time at home and my quarantine time, but I never stopped practicing. I maybe wasn't practicing every day, but I was doing something every day, either tennis or fitness or a different sport, or I was just stayed very active. But I was really enjoying just being able to do things for fun, not like practice because I wanted to practice, not because I had to practice. And I think I that helped my body get fitter and maybe a little bit more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when I got back to the tournaments, I felt I think World Team Tennis helped. I got a bunch of
Yeah.
sets in and won most of them. So I think that helped to boost the confidence. And once we got to the tournaments, I mean, obviously my partners played well alongside me. So I need to give my partners credit as well, because like all of them
Sure.
did were next to me on the court. But I think just believing in myself and just feeling a little bit more calm in certain situations. Maybe Corona helped put the perspective how unimportant tennis really is. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it's my job, it's my life, but there's a virus in the world that that many people are struggling with. Some people are dying from it. I mean, the whole world is basically shut down, and we still have the opportunity to play tennis. So I think that might have taken a little, or given me a bit more of perspective,
Yeah. Take a
and
little
taken a little
pressure
pressure off that
off.
it's really not the most important thing.
Yeah. So do you think when you got back, I think Cincinnati, or they had that tournament in Lexington, but I don't think you played that. So
That was the
Cincinnati
week
was
before
the
Cincinnati.
yeah. So Cincinnati was your first tournament back. Did you
Hmm.
feel like you were better prepared than some of the other players? Like, did you feel like some of the other players maybe took a lot more time off in quarantine than you during like April, May, June, July, or
Um, I mean, I think I was well prepared. Also, I had the 3 weeks of World Team Tennis leading up
yeah,
to that.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
but I think leading into World Team Tennis, I felt prepared
Hmm.
because as it led up to that, I stayed physically fit, and then when we knew Team Tennis was going to happen, that's when I started practicing hard again.
Hmm.
But I didn't feel like it was such a shock from doing nothing to, practice again. It was kind of like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
fit. Now I just need to play a little bit more tennis than I have been.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I guess what I'm wondering, I would imagine like if I was a player and I was in quarantine for like 4 or 5 months, I get back, I go to the locker room, like I see all the other players in the player lounge or wherever, and you're like talking, and I would imagine there's like some players who just like didn't play a whole lot, or
Hmm.
like, did y'all get some of that? Like, I don't know, you don't have to name names, but like, were some of the players just like a little bit lazier than others, or a little bit more?
I feel like you could definitely tell
Yeah.
based on, how maybe players were like moving or playing and stuff. You could definitely
Mhm.
tell who had been practicing and who was like, oh, I need to play again. And then, then they like just kind of sort of, you could tell players that had a rhythm and that didn't.
Right, right. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's good. That worked out for you to keep practicing, and you had a really good fall. So going forward to 2021, you're teaming up with Demi Schurz. Am I saying that right?
Demi Shures, yeah.
Demi Schurz.
That's the American way of saying it, at least.
What's the right way to say it?
Well, Demi is correct, but Shures is normally like Schurs or something like that. But in Dutch,
Oh,
it's actually very difficult. I think that's not
okay.
even right. So let's stick with Shures on that one.
Okay, I'm not gonna try that. So you're teaming up with her for the Australian Open. Do you have a plan for 2021 as far as like, do you and Demi talk and say like, let's do the whole season, or let's play Australian Open and see how it goes? Talk us through how you're going into this season.
Yeah, Demi and I, we basically committed for the season. We've known each other for many years. We've had the same coach for the last couple of years. We think our games can match up well, and we had a bit of success in Strasbourg last year, winning there together. But yeah, we committed for the season. Obviously, things can go up and down, but I think both of us have such a good game that sooner or later it'll click, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I think we believe in each other, and we're going to give it a go.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like y'all have already clicked at least in one tournament, so you should be able to hit the ground running. So you've got a few more days of quarantine, then there's a warm-up tournament, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the Australian Open immediately following that.
Mm-hmm.
What does the rest of the spring look like for you?
Well, we don't know what we're gonna play. It obviously depends on results and certain things. But the week after Australian Open is another tournament in Adelaide here in Australia,
Okay.
and then there's Doha and Dubai after that. And then I think there's a tournament in St. Petersburg. I don't believe we would go to that either way. I don't think either of us are keen on going there. And then then Miami is supposed to happen. Miami and then Charleston. So we might play some of it. We might play all of it minus St. Petersburg. It just sort of depends a little bit how we go in Australian Open. Obviously, we want to play our best tennis in a Grand Slam, but we need to see what makes sense calendar-wise, what makes sense COVID-wise.
Yeah.
Because maybe if one of us were to want to go home, but it's only for a few days, and then you have to risk like flying back and forth, and then who knows how quarantine restrictions are and the chance of maybe catching COVID if you're in the plane and
Right.
stuff. It's actually really tricky right now. It's you need to take so many more factors into consideration. It's not just like, oh, let me go home for a few days and then I'll see you at the tournament. It's like
Right.
no, it's not so simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and it all depends on like the country and where you're flying through and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So is there how are the vaccines going to work for y'all? Y'all don't get any sort of like special treatment or anything, do you, for that? Is the tour work something out, or?
I have no idea.
No
I have
idea.
no clue. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, so let's get into some double strategies. So with Demi, are you going to be playing the deuce or ad court?
I'd say deuce. We're
Deuce.
practicing, yeah, but we like to keep our options open. Obviously, we've only played a couple of tournaments together, and that's how we played. Me on the deuce, her on the ad side. But we're always open-minded, so we'll switch it up if we feel like we want to or need to. But I think for the most part, I'll be on the deuce side.
Got it. Okay, and she's right-handed. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought. So let's talk returning from the Deuce Court. I want to talk you through or ask you about some different scenarios that, like, if you're playing against a certain type of team, what's going through your head, where are you thinking about hitting the ball, where are you thinking about moving, things like that. So we'll start with the returning from the Deuce Court against a player who serves and stays back, which I feel like a lot more players do nowadays. What are you thinking about when you kind of step up there for, you can break it down first serve versus second serve, or however you like.
Well, if you know someone's gonna stay back, you're not necessarily trying to keep like the ball low for maybe a low first volley. So I think you're trying to return a bit deeper. So when they're landing, like the ball is a bit deeper in the court rather than if it's short, they have more time. Because if someone's serving and volleying, you want to keep it lower. So then maybe you are aiming like around the service line. But it sort of depends on the playing style, but you can, if it's your favorite side, you can accept that they're staying back and you can stay back as well and try and accept the rally and see if you can beat them through that side. Or if you know they're staying back, maybe on a second serve, if you want to make some pressure and take the second serve return early and come in on them, to try and maybe rush them off that first contact right after the serve. Those are a few, I think, different ways you can approach that.
Okay, got it. So return and volley on the second serve is a good strategy. It sounds like serve and stay back. Yeah, we want to focus on depth more so than keeping it low. So what about I guess the serve and volleyer was my next question, but it sounds like you already answered that. So you want to keep it low, have it land around the service line. Anything else to focus on there?
I mean, as a returner, yeah, you definitely want to make them hit that first volley, and I think also it's important to just keep them busy. Just you want to make sure that they have it difficult when they are up there.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about? So this can apply to either team, serve and volley or serve and stay back. Let's assume they're playing a traditional formation. When do you go down the line from that Deuce Court? Do you decide before the point, or is there something you're looking for?
I think there's a lot of things you're looking for. I think sometimes if you can go down the line to see if the person's awake.
Yeah.
See if they're even paying attention. Because oddly enough, sometimes players just don't think you're going to hit it to them, and they'll be surprised when you hit it at them. Or if you have someone that's a weak volleyer, you might go at them, see what happens. If you have someone that you know is an active net player, you might go down the line to try and keep them honest and make sure that they know that you're not afraid to go there. So I think there's multiple reasons. It just depends on what type of team you're playing against.
Sure. Okay. And do you prefer? Does it matter to you if it's like forehand or backhand? Do you decide before the point? I haven't gone down the line in a while. I'm going to go line here, or they're moving a lot at the net. I'm going to go line here, regardless of the serve. Or do you like wait for a second serve, or how do you think about that?
I personally don't care if I'm hitting a forehand or backhand. Sometimes it's tough off the first serve if they do hit a really good first serve. Sometimes that's a little bit out of your control. But yeah, second serves I think are usually always a good opportunity to try it. Or if you get a weaker ball in the rally, you could try it as well to step in. I think the most important thing is when you go down the line, you want to be stepping into the ball to take time away from them. Whereas if they hit like the ball super deep and you're out on your back foot, it's probably not going to be super effective to go line. I think they're going to have too much time to, prepare and like hit the volley. Whereas if you're stepping in and really hitting it, then it takes time away from them.
Yeah. Yeah. So stepping in, especially on any short balls, right? That's a good opportunity there. So what about, so we're still returning from the Deuce Court. What about when the other team does different serving formations? So if they play I or Australian formation, how do you think about returning against that?
I think it's good there's two ways you can do it. Either pick a spot and it doesn't matter where they serve, that's your target for the return. Or some players in the moment, just depending on where they feel most comfortable hitting it, to go for it. Or some players even try and see where the net person is moving to maybe not hit it to the net person. So there's different ways in approaching it. I think the simplest one is to give yourself a target and go for that target, no matter where they serve. Obviously, if the serve is too good, sometimes you need to improvise just in that split second and just, try and get the ball back as best you can. But I think most of the time, if you get a racket on it at this level, you should be able to, for the most part, hit it in the direction where you want it to go.
Got it. Okay. And are you, so if they're lined up in the I formation, are you typically going down the line because that's what's open? Or are you mixing it up on your opponent?
I think it's best to mix it up, because you don't know if they're moving left or right. Maybe
Right.
you think maybe the server has a side that they really prefer, and if they, in my case, if they really prefer their backhand, that would be like a down the line. So then maybe it might seem more obvious that the baseline person is gonna choose that side. But I think it's good to mix it up because they're probably mixing it up as well. They're probably, you don't really know if they're going cross or line with their who's covering which side. So I think it's good to see and keep them honest too.
Got it. Okay. So that was returning from the Deuce Court. Let's say we just hit our down the line winner and now it's love 15. Now you're the returner's partner. Talk about the returner's partner. To me, this is the most difficult position on the court because there's so many different things to be looking for. So talk about where you like to stand, what you're looking for as far as attacking versus playing defense. Just talk us through that position a little bit.
Well, it depends on two things: how good of a server is serving and how good of a returner is my partner. Okay. So if I have, even if my partner is a really good returner, if someone over there is serving very well, I'm probably going to stay back a little bit in case my partner doesn't hit a great return and maybe our opponents have a volley that I have a little bit more time to react. But if I believe in my returner and my returner's been returning well, I'll probably stand a bit closer. So if they do hit a good return, maybe I can pick it off as a volleyer.
Sure.
So
where
those
are you
are
standing when you say you're moving back? Are you going all the way back to the baseline, or just like a few feet behind the service line? Where specifically?
I think anywhere from a step behind the service line to the baseline, just honestly depending on how aggressive the net player of the server is. Because again, if the server is serving well and the net player is super active, you need to give yourself more time. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And then how far forward? Let's say, will you typically move forward if it's a second serve? Let's say they miss the first serve and.
I'd say, yeah, usually most players would. They'd probably go on or just inside the service line, and then they'd probably see where the return goes and see if they move even closer or stay in sort of that neutral position. I think then it depends on how good of a return your partner hits.
Got it. Okay. So let's say from the two back, or maybe you're like 3 or 4 feet behind the service line, you're buying yourself time. Your partner hits the return, it gets by the net player. What are you doing at that point? What are you looking for?
Moving forward, especially if the player is comfortable at the net, you probably just as the net person, you mean, right? The partner of the returner. Yeah, you move forward and then you establish your net position, because to move back from there once they've done their job of hitting it past the net person would be silly. Then you're just, I think, giving them too much court to work with. I think it's best if the net person moves forward.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about serving. So let's say serving in the Deuce Court, we're playing against a conventional team, 2 right-handed players. What are you thinking about? How do you typically? What's your kind of go-to approach to serving in the Deuce Court?
Honestly, I like to go with my favorite spots regardless. And even whether I'm playing a righty or a lefty, I go with what I'm feeling, or maybe I'll go for, like, if I know the person, I'll go for their weaknesses and see what I feel, or I'll go for my best serve. I mean, I don't think it really matters if they're righty or lefty. I think I'm always going to start the match like on my terms and
Sure.
see what happens, because if I'm playing my strengths, then they're working. Why would I change it? If it's not working, then I need to adjust as I go, but I'm not really gonna care if it's a righty or lefty
Right.
right away.
So the one thing you said there that's really important for the listeners is if it's not working, you're going to make an adjustment, because for you, I think that probably works most of the time because you have one of the best serves on tour. So for most people, myself included, when we go out and play a match, like, we're not going to be able to just serve our way through games and not think about the returner, right? So, anybody can definitely start with their own terms and things like that. But let's say things don't start to go your way. You're just having an off day serving. How do you kind of get yourself out of that?
Well, there's two things. I think it's important. Let's say you're making serves, but they're making all the returns. I think it's important not to be predictable. So to try and move the serve around the box, maybe even change your position on the baseline. So the serves are coming from slightly different angles. Okay. When you're serving, or if you're having a bad serving day when you're just not making enough serves, I think you need to take a bit off and maybe hit an aggressive second serve as a first serve, and maybe aim for a bigger target, go body instead of tee or wide, and try to get a higher percentage of first serves in and make them play. I think those would be two things that I would recommend.
Got it. Okay. And then what about serving formations? When during a match, when do you decide to use an I formation or an Australian formation? Or is that something you decide before the match with your coach and your partner because you're playing a particular team? Talk us through that.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think obviously players are different, but if one of your opponents maybe struggles with a certain return, or vice versa, if they like a certain return, you can try and maybe either challenge them to hit a return they don't like, or try and not let them hit a return that they do like. So if someone loves to return cross court and you do the I formation, you can do I formation and make sure that net player is covering the cross court. So then you see who's better. Will the net player maybe finish the volleys, or is the return player gonna still hit their favorite return cross court, and is it still gonna work? I think also some players, maybe they favor a certain side. If they're serving, maybe they'll favor their backhand. So maybe they don't want to rally on their forehand side, so they'll do I formation just to make sure that they can rally from their backhand side instead of their forehand side, or vice versa.
Yeah.
There's I think it definitely you look at it from a bunch of different perspectives depending on the opponent.
Sure. Okay. And let's move on to the ad court. So serving on the ad court, how do you think about that? Same stuff, different formations, different locations. What's your kind of typical strategy and thought process for the ad court?
I mean, I think again, it's very similar to the Deuce Court. I think there's basically three things you can do. You can either do serve and stay back, you can serve and volley, or you can do an I formation, and either choose to still stay on that side or go to the other side and be on the Deuce side rallying. So you have that's the beauty about doubles. You just have so much variety that you can choose which part of the court you want to be on. If you don't want to be on the baseline, you just run into the net. If you don't want to be at the net, you stay on the baseline. If you want to be on your forehand side, you can either return on that side or do an I formation and then run to the forehand side. I mean, that's what's a big difference between singles and doubles, is that you can really choose which part of the court you want to be on, and then make it more difficult for your opponents to force you to be in a part of the court that you don't want to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking about serving to both sides, uh, I'll just give you an example. So like for myself, I almost never use. I'm starting to a little more, but I almost never use the I formation on the deuce side because it exposes my backhand. And at y'all's level, like all of y'all have plenty good backhands and forehands to where it's not that big of a weakness to where you just want to avoid it at all cost. But uh, yeah, I pretty much try to avoid my backhand from the baseline at all costs. So I prefer to play the I formation on the ad court so that it opens up my forehand from the baseline. Is
Sorry,
there anything?
I think the people that test me are here. Can you give me 1 minute?
Oh yeah, no problem.
I had no idea they were coming. Sorry, give me a minute.
All right, so we're back. So I was asking about, or I guess I was telling you about how I prefer to play I formation on the ad side because I favor my forehand. Is there anything like that for you at the pro level? Something you like to do more on the deuce side versus the ad side with regard to like the serve team?
If I'm serving?
Yeah, like when you're serving.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm serving and volleying, I maybe slightly prefer, I might do it a little bit more on the ad side than on the deuce.
Okay.
Just, I don't know. I think the first volley is a little easier on the ad side than on the deuce side, but I will serve and volley occasionally on both. I mean, I don't serve and volley very much, but when I do it, it seems to be a little bit more on the ad side than on the deuce side. But I feel like I mean, the I formation, I feel like I maybe in the past when my backhand was much weaker, I was doing I formation sort of like you to like favor more to be on my forehand. But I feel like now, and at least in the last year, I feel like I've mixed it up quite a bit because I don't really have as much of a preference anymore. I think my backhand has improved a lot, so I like to go to both sides and change it up and keep my opponents guessing. But yeah, but for you, I mean, if you don't like your backhand, you can still do information on the deuce side, but then on the line, then you have your net person go to that side. So you don't have to only do it on the ad side to then run to your forehand. You can do it on the deuce side, but then stay on your forehand as well.
Hold on 1 second. It broke up. Let's so start back when you said for you. Do you remember?
Yeah, so for you, if you don't like your backhand, you can also do the I formation on the deuce side, but still staying on your forehand. So your net person will go to the left and cover the down the line. So you still have your forehand. You don't have, just because you do I formation doesn't mean you have to cover the line and the net person is only covering the cross court. That's the beauty of the I formation. You don't know which direction the net person is going to cover.
Right. Yeah, my we're not going to dive too far into this, but my problem there a lot of the times is that I don't have a very good serve. So
so then your net person gets kind of killed with covering the line.
They might get screwed. Yeah, I returning to serving. So
okay.
Anyways, we're not going to dive too deep into that. So next, I wanted to talk about in the middle of a point. So when we get into these certain matchups, let's say you're at the baseline, your partner is at the net, and the other team comes forward. They've got two at the net, you're at the baseline. Let's say you have a forehand from the Deuce Court. What are you thinking about in that scenario? How do you, obviously it seems like you're on defense probably in this situation. How do you think about getting out of that?
I think the most important thing is not to give them a free point. If there's two people at the net, they're obviously looking to try and put pressure. So I think the first most important thing is don't give them a free point. And I think it's,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Don't just give them an error. Don't just miss it in the net or miss it by going for too much. I mean, that's basically playing into what they want. So I think it's important to keep it low. So they don't have such an easy first volley, so they can't just like, if it's too high, obviously they could probably finish it or be more aggressive with it, where if it's lower, then they usually have to like play it back and wait for a better one. But I think it's important to know that you have a lot of options, that you can hit at their feet, you can play down the middle, you can play down the line, you can hit a lob, you can go right at them. I mean, it just depends on the ball that you have, but I feel like people panic too often and just don't know where to play it, whereas actually trying to see the whole court, yes, they're at the net, but that you can still play around with the ball and try and put it where you want it.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, really important point that I want people to take away. Like, I see so often, even at our level, or at my level, like I see so often two players get to the net and then an error, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just don't give them a free point. And at the same time, if you're playing at these lower like USTA levels, getting to the net is a great way to force errors, because most people do that, right? Most people
Mm-hmm.
press a little bit. Most people will try to go for a little more and miss. So yeah, so that's a really good point there. Um, so what about one up, one back? So you're in a cross court rally from the Deuce Court, conventional style. What are you thinking about there?
I mean, there's a lot of things you can think about, but it obviously depends on the type of player. If the person likes to stay back and they like their forehand, then try and hit a good deep ball cross court to try and maybe set up your net person to see if they can like poach or interfere. If you want to try and move forward, if you get a short ball, to take it early and get in quickly, I think that's a nice opportunity. You can always use the lob down the line, especially if the person you're rallying cross court with is either slow or doesn't have a good backhand. You can try and lob the person down the line and change up the rhythm, and then maybe you get into a down the line rally. There's a lot of options there. You can always try and like we said before, go at the net person and see what they're up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So speaking of the net person, so when you're at the net, let's say you're at the net and your partner's in a rally. So if you're returning, this means you're probably on the deuce side. You have your backhand volley in the middle. What kind of poaching cues are you looking for? What kind of things are you looking for on the other side of the net to know, okay, I'm moving on this one?
If my partner hits a good ball and it's fairly deep, I think that's a good cue to work off of. Obviously, if they hit the ball short and it's sort of a sitter, you probably don't want to poach on that. Then you're I think that's probably not very smart. But I think it's you need to also maybe try and understand if your opponent likes to hit cross court, or if they know you want to move and maybe they're waiting for you to move, so they're waiting to hit it down the line. There's just so much that goes into tennis. It's hard to just pick one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the depth one is a really good point. A lot of people don't know when to poach. Like that's the reason I asked this question, because I feel like a lot of the listeners, whether it's a 3-5 or even a 4-5 or 5-0 level, they're just like not sure what to look for, not sure when to kind of move towards that middle. But if there's a good place to start, it's probably with that depth, right? If they see the ball kind of landing deep in the court, that's a great time to move. So that is all the questions I have for you today. Is do you have any final kind of requests or comments for the audience?
Not really. I mean, if your audience ever like puts together some questions or asks specific questions, I mean, I'd be happy to answer them in the future if they have anything that's more specific, or if they wanted some advice on something that they're doing in their match, like, oh, this situation keeps happening and it seems like what I'm doing doesn't work. What would you suggest, or what can I change? I think those would always be fun to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if anybody's listening, just email those to me, and we can maybe get a list of questions and do some sort of roundup and get you involved in that. That sounds like that'd be a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So thanks a lot for hopping on again, and good luck in Australia. We'll be watching.
Thank you.
Will here with the Tennis Tribe, and thanks for watching that video. If you found that helpful, be sure to click the thumbs up button below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future videos. And if you want even more doubles lessons, go to thetennistribe.com and sign up for our weekly doubles newsletter. Every Thursday, I send you my best doubles tips and strategies to help you become a smarter, more effective doubles player. You can also listen to our podcast, the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.